welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. A lovely, sunny but cold day where I am in preparation of Celtic's game against Hibs tonight. Quite an important game for Celtic to maintain that 8-point lead over Rangers going into the busy festive period. 8 games in 27 days. Leading up to final game against St Mirren just before the mid-season winter break. Looking at Brendan Rodgers' provisional squad, it looks like we may well be getting the same as before with a couple of tweaks, and it would appear that yet again Marco Tilio is nowhere to be seen. Something that Rodgers just has not explained well enough for me. Marco Tilio appears to be fully fit, training day in, day out. Was good enough for Australia to call him up for their Olympic squad matches in the Middle East just a couple of weeks ago. Played in effect one whole game split over 2 games with 2 appearances for about 90 minutes in total. Was said to have played well, particularly in the second match. And comes back and gets a few minutes against Motherwell when wasn't really on the pitch long enough to make any difference, and then confined to sitting in the stands for the game against St Johnstone, where we really were crying out for a player of pace and directness. Instead, we got Mikey Johnston. So, some of you may have watched my YouTube short that I released yesterday with my predicted 11 of what I think Rodgers should go with, but I have my serious doubts that Rodgers will go for anything like this, as he's kind of stuck in his rigid 4-3-3, and to keep that 4-3-3 playing square pegs in round holes, and also playing tired square pegs often as well. Anyway, my suggested 11 in a 4-1-3-2 formation, Hart in goals, as there is no really any other option. Alsa Johnston as the alternative that Rodgers goes for is Anthony Ralston, although Gustav Lagbielka and Stephen Welsh are both very capable playing at right back. However, Alsa Johnston will get the game again, even though I think he is struggling with his ankle that was operated on during the summer. He did mention that in a press conference after the Lazio loss. However, Rodgers will keep Johnson going at right back. I thought we should actually give Carter Vickers and Greg Taylor a bit of a rest, and so was suggesting Gustav Lagabielka and Mike Nawrocki as a central defensive 2, with Liam Scales moving to left back. This has the advantage of getting our second best defender, which is Mike Nawrocki, into the team after a long spell out. He had a couple of games for Celtic prior to his injury, played, I thought, actually perfectly well. Gustav Lagabielka got better and better, having been thrown in at the deep end, starting a game only a couple of days after arriving at Celtic, never having trained with the team, never really having had any introduction to the team ethos, tactics, etc. I thought he got better and better, particularly when you remember that he was also having to form a partnership with Liam Scales, who also was starting for the first time in centre defence for Celtic, and I thought that they got better and better. Admittedly, Lagabielka had a bit of an unlucky match against Feyenoord, getting a slightly harsh booking in the first half, and then a very harsh penalty kick and second booking that sent him off around the hour mark against Feyenoord, and he's scarcely been seen since then. think moving Liam Scales to left back is a good option. He is able to pass, distribute, and get down the wing, support in midfield, work in that inverted fullback role, also work as a conventional fullback. Also gives us a bigger body in defence for clearing crosses, corners, long throws, which has been a major problem for Celtic in recent times. Scales a good 5 inches taller than Greg Taylor and would be much more of a presence alongside Navroki, Lakabielka, CCV in the middle to give Joe Hart a bit of more protection to come out and punch the ball clear or catch it. In midfield, I was going to go for Tomoki Iwata in the Callum McGregor slightly defensive central midfield role. I think Tomoki Iwata deserves every chance for Celtic. I think he's an upgrade on Bernardo and Home, who are both much younger than him. He has tons of industry, effort, supports defence, supports his midfield people, gets the ball out wide to the wingers, gets the ball forward through the middle also, and as he showed against Hearts, able to finish chances, and as he showed against St Johnstone a couple of days ago, good energy, good pass, good timing when he set up James Forrest for the clinching third goal against St Johnstone, and I think he deserves a good run in the team right up until Rio Hitati comes back. I really hope that Rodgers will go with him. However, I fear that he'll go with McGregor, O'Reilly, and Turnbull in midfield, repeating the mistake that hasn't really served Celtic that well in any game this season, where Turnbull does the job of about a third of a man, leaving McGregor and O'Reilly to pick up the slack and also putting extra pressure on the two fullbacks to work more in midfield supporting players. Personally, I'd go with Iwata and then McGregor and O'Reilly in more advanced roles, with Luis Palma in front of them in a roving attacking midfield role, a role that he was able to play in Greek football and Honduran football from time to time. This allows Palma to be more creative, more free roaming, using his pace and trickery, and also his ability to cross and also defend splitting passes, and also puts him more in line for longer shots from the edge of the box, which also was one of his fortes in his 18 months in the Greek top division. And finally, up front, I would go for Kyogo Furuhashi just behind O as a front two. Furuhashi having more of an inside role in the Henrik Larsson mould, and O playing more of a target man centre forward, a la John Hartson or Chris Sutton, or Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink or Pierre van Hooijdonk, a position that's worked very well for Celtic over a couple of decades. I think, however, Rodgers will go for a rather boring front three of Palma wide on the left, Johnston wide on the right, and Kyogo by himself through the middle. Still, I am rather bemused at the brilliant reception that Mikey Johnston's performance got. Some stats I read this morning said he was 100% successful with his passes. I suspect that must be ignoring the 6 crosses that hit the first defender or went straight into the goalkeeper's hands, unless that's who Johnson was passing to, was the left back of St Johnstone, the centre back of St Johnstone, or Mitov, the goalkeeper for St Johnstone. However, they said that Johnson had one shot on goal. I don't remember Johnson having a shot on goal. He nearly got a deflection that he headed into the goal. He was said to have had a couple of key passes. The only key pass that he had for me was when the ball rebounded off his heel, I thought accidentally, straight to Kyogo, although he appears to have been given massive credit by the stats people for that. And also, as was seen from his heat map, he seemed unable to cross the halfway line back into the Celtic half, to support midfield or even cover back to support Johnson when Johnson went forward, unlike Yang, who was tracking up and down quite on a regular basis, supporting midfield and supporting the attack. However, um, Brendan Rodgers was delighted with him, and so he's going to be starting for the next few games. That's assuming that Mikey Johnson breaks the habit of a lifetime and doesn't get himself injured, um, which is also one of my concerns about playing Alistair Johnston, CCV, Scales, Taylor, week in, week out, is that sooner or later they're going to get injured again. However, either way, I think Celtic have got more than enough, even with the second choice Brendan Rodgers version of the side to beat Hibs. I do hope that the crowd gets fully behind Celtic, that we've got a near enough capacity crowd cheering everybody on, and that the crowd gets back to their noisy but now well-behaved ways, supporting the team and concentrating on supporting the team and no other issues or conflicts or problems or antagonism of the board, Rodgers, or the players. So, happily, we would predict Celtic's going to win 3-1 tonight. I don't think Celtic's going to get a clean sheet, as we so rarely ever do get a clean sheet these days. Key thing, I think, is Celtic make a good start, get on top nice and early, get an early goal, forces Hibs to come out a bit more, and I think there'll be plenty of room to get in behind them and through them if Hibs have to start attacking a bit more to get back into the game. I think the last thing we want to do is have a slow, tepid start, as we did on several occasions recently, such as Motherwell, the prior game against St Johnstone, the most recent game against St Johnstone, where we'll let the other team get into the game. I think we need to go for how we did against Atletico Madrid at home, get on top of them, keep them under pressure, and especially the blueprint is the game against Aberdeen. We won 6-0, where we got on top nice and early, scored early goals, and kept the pressure going for the whole game, which then led to late goals with Turnbull and O to complete the victory at 6-0. So 3-1 victory for Celtic tonight in preparation for the next match against Kilmarnock. Probably Rodgers might well rest a couple of players against Kilmarnock in preparation for the final Champions League match against Feyenoord. But I do think it's at this time of year, with 8 games between now and the start of January, it's important to rest, rotate, and use the squad in full. Although for Rodgers, the squad in full seems to completely lack Marco Tilio, which I think is a massive shame. A couple of wee other bits of news is that Celtic are said to be stepping up their interest in Bojan Miovski of Aberdeen. Miovski scored 18 goals last year, 11 goals so far this season. Said that if Celtic want to sign Miovski in the winter transfer window, it's going to take a record fee between 2 Scottish clubs, which currently stands at 4.4 million, which was Scott Brown's fee coming to us from Hibs. I seriously don't think Bojan Miovski is worth 4.5 million plus, nor do I think he is the better option for Celtic. I think Kiesgarden and Sidney van Hoydonk much better, much more established, much more skillful, much more all-round strikers. And if we're looking to get a striker from Scottish teams, I think a much better option would be Lawrence Shankland, likely available for half that amount of money. And Shankland, of course, is Scottish, which will help with UEFA quotas in the future. And so I think if we're going to go for a Scottish-based forward, much better to go for Shankland rather than Miovski. I don't think Miovski is nearly as an all-around player as we require, nor is he as all-around as Lawrence Shankland. Don't think Lawrence Shankland necessarily is going to give us much success at the very highest level. However, he is a proven goal scorer in Scottish football, has actually scored international goals as well. Um, and so I think he would be a good player for the Scottish games, resting O and Kyogo for European matches and bigger matches. Um, I do think actually Shankland, O, and Kyogo would form a nice rotating three where one's playing, one's on the bench, and the other is in the stands, rotating that around, depending on injuries and suspensions and other commitments. And I think that actually would be successful, although personally I would much happier go for the younger options of Keith Garden or Van Hooijdonk to come in to be the third striker. Of course, the option would then be also to have Shankland as a fourth striker. I think Celtic's squad and team could afford to have that number of players, especially given the fact that O and Furuhashi will be away for a while. And we'll keep all four strikers nice and fresh, especially if we go over to having a two-striker set up front. No other real news on the go at the moment for Celtic. Very strong rumours that David Turnbull is lining up a move to Leeds, either in the January transfer window or next summer. If he was to leave in January, Celtic would be able to ask for a transfer fee. But otherwise, his contract's going to be up, and I think Celtic should look in any way to get rid of David Turnbull. He's been offered a very good contract, it is said. That's been renegotiated and put back to him and his agent, and Turnbull has turned it down repeatedly and clearly wants away from Celtic. Don't think he has enjoyed the criticism of Postecoglou and Rodgers, both of whom are saying very talented player in the final third, but doesn't do nearly enough in terms of his full midfield role. And also a player who, from what both Rodgers and Postecoglou have said behind the scenes, doesn't train particularly well, doesn't really improve his fitness or energy or pace, and he seems quite happy just to coast along, taking penalties, corners, free kicks, and long shots, and forgetting about any other parts of a midfielder's duties in a team. So, finishes things off for today. Hopefully Celtic do the business tonight, and I'll do our early morning post-match review tomorrow. Possibly as a live stream, possibly as a video. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching today. Good luck Celtic in your game against Hibs tonight. Goodbye and hail hail.